fatal thought impact, past painful thoughts. In fact, I blast tasteful thoughts and past. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet now. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Q's show here, and now. Whenever we last left off with this series, quite a lot of things happened. In the last part, Deku, him and humanity, they finally were able to track down the engineers. The ones who may have been responsible for dropping the black goo on humanity and destroying most of it. Now, Deku and Aki, along with many other of Deku's skilled hunters, they went down and attacked the engineers. They were able to surprise them and catch them off guard, as they were able to slaughter them, or at least battle is a more accurate term, since they did actually put up a fairly decent fight, even though these people had superpowers. Now, Deku and Aki, they got into a fight with one particular engineer, where all three of them, they were exposed to the brown liquid David gave Deku. Now, Aki, she sacrificed her biomask to save Deku, after this engineer crushed his, and assumably a part of Deku's face. As Aki, after she did so, she did sacrifice a bit more. Her screaming out and using Deku's plasma scythe to chop down the engineer. She screamed about protecting her beloved, and a lot of people, they were trying to pay attention. They heard that, but right now they are more focused on their leader, most likely being injured, and or at least dead from the atmosphere. Now, Aki herself fell very shortly afterwards, and Deku and her were both rushed to the evacuation ship, as we do currently have on board the main ship. A lot of things are happening, and right now David, he's standing at a door as it does slide open. Two people carrying Deku, holding him by his arms and legs, as David's asking exactly what the hell happened down there and he's walking with them. Many people are running over to try to see what's going on. As these two, they're shouting for everyone to get the hell out of the way, and that Scar needs to get into the damn medbay. As this is all going on, you do actually have a few people that are watching Aki get dragged in as well, as they're all kind of confused. And some people are trying to ask exactly what did they do, what did they find, and if it's all over. As some people are just shouting to fucking move, and to just let them set them down first before they start answering some bullshit. As whenever these two were sat down, you did actually have our doctors, they tried to run over and help Deku. As the moment the mask was removed from Deku's face, the doctor, he actually did somewhat jump backwards and go to fall into the ground, as he was shouting, "What the fuck?" Now, David did come running over, as whenever he did go to look down at Deku's face, his eyes widened, and he did at least go to turn and stare directly at Aki, as he does notice the exact same thing, before he does turn to Walter and inform him that he needs to go get shit from their lab, and he knows exactly what they need. They must have been exposed to it. And Walter is going to turn and run, before David does turn to the doctors and inform them that they need to get the hell out right now, and he will handle these two. The doctors both looking at each other and arguing, expressing that they need immediate medical attention, and right now they need to see what the hell's wrong with them. Because if he's correct, Deku, he might have sustained some serious brain trauma just from looking at his eyes. And David, he knows exactly what's wrong here. They must have been exposed to the goo. And right now, he's trying to inform them all to leave and let him be. Him and Walter will handle these two. Them even expressing to the doctors that they don't know enough about yautja autonomy to operate on them. However, he has taken apart many yautja. Now, The doctors, they do hear about that. As whenever Walter he does come running back into the room, he's carrying two large duffel bags. And he does go to set them down carefully before turning and going to push the doctors out of the room. As after the doors are closed, you do have where Walter does walk over and go to look down at Deku. As Deku, his body is currently convulsing and somewhat moving rapidly. And Aki, she's actually just laying there a bit stiller, however, she's staring right up. As you do actually have where whenever David is going to bring his hand up and go to at least wave it in front of Deku's hand immediately does pop up, grabbing onto David's wrist as it does start to somewhat bend, and David does try to fight against it. As Deku, he does go to have his eyes directly look at David before going to say something that David he doesn't understand. David assumed it must have been yautja, but there was something wrong with it. It didn't seem like yautja. It seemed to have a more, well, basic lexicon, but still, it was a human-based language, maybe. It could be pronounced and said easily. Even he could have repeated the phrase that he just heard, but he doesn't know what it means. Now, David he does stare directly down at Deku, as he does try to calm him down and tell him exactly what's going on. However, you do actually have a key. Walter, he actually did start to somewhat chain down a key because of the way Deku was acting. If he's right, these two must have both been exposed. And right now, Deku, he got the brunt of it. Or, at least that's what they do think. They don't know exactly what happened down there. And right now, they need to at least get these two secure and protect them not only from themselves, but to protect themselves from these two people who may be going crazy. Now, this is something that David, he does start to run over, grab his bags, and go to open them up, as he quickly starts to pull things out and set them down to the table. Before he does go to turn to Walter and inform him to draw blood and get some IVs started, as we do actually have some time later. Walter and David were able to get these two somewhat stabilized. However, stability and functionality, they don't exactly go too well together, especially for what these two were exposed to. David's quite aware that he's going to have to essentially do a human test run now, and even a yautja test run, as we do currently have where David is going to plug Deku's biomask into the system. However, whenever he actually is going to look up and see exactly the user interface, he's confused. Before he does go to look at the mask and go to examine it a bit more. Him realizing that there's not a scar on it, as he does realize that Aki must have put Deku's mask on. Him actually going to bring the mask up to his face and put it on. As you do actually have with the interface, it does scan for him and at least somewhat verify that there is currently somebody using the mask. And as this does actually happen, you do over David just to poke around and check on a few things. As he's sitting there with the mask on his face, and Walter, he is currently examining these two and looking at a bit of things. He's going over some blood work on these two, and it does seem kind of strange. A lot of things don't make sense, and he's not exactly too sure if he's getting confused on some of these things, but if he's right about what he's seeing, it may not be good, especially for those two. Now, as David is looking at some of the information, he does at least check on the integrity of the biomask and see that the filtration systems have actually sustained slight damage. So, that means that the liquid or the mist shredded parts of the system on the way in. So, these two were both fully exposed. Even the moment the container burst open and touched their mask, they were both immediately damaged by it. Granted, the mask was able to sustain on backup, but there was that problem. It's still inside the mask. This is troubling to him. That being what David's currently thinking. As you do have where he does go to upload these findings to the yautja system. And as it is currently uploaded, David he does go to take off the mask, as he does go to turn back towards Deku. Him trying to think about what exactly is wrong with him. And The fact is, they were able to get him stabilized, but for how long? And when exactly will he be up and about again? However, we do currently at least have, instead of Deku's mind, Deku, he's laying on this table, and he's finding it to be quite strange. He doesn't know where he is, but when he looks down, he sees his hands. They're so large. They're so big. And when he looks down at his body, he doesn't know what to say. He feels so, well, bulky. And you do actually have where he does start to hear a voice. Deku looking up and seeing somebody. As they look like a key. A key? A key looking up. As you do actually have where she's experiencing something similar. She's looking at her hands and finding that they're not hers. And she's looking up at Deku and she sees him. Her at least saying Scar. Asking if something's wrong. What is this? Both of the two, they do at least get to turn their heads. The room forming around them and shaping into something that they both do recognize. As they're looking out of a viewing port. And they can tell, by the way they're at, the place they're in, it's pandemonium. They're hovering above Earth. And Deku does see it. He sees the planet he called home. And he watches as the payload is dropped. Deku, he watches the horror. The initial catastrophe. Humanity, they were gone. And at Key, she was standing there. She was paying attention to this. As while Deku watched humanity die, you did at least have where she was standing in a large city. Her vision changing and turning into one where she's standing on the surface of Yautja Prime. And Yautja Prime, it seems perfect, it seems fine. However, things start to change around her. The sky blackens, and the city, it's overrun by screams. As monsters are running around the planet and attacking them, biting and ripping apart people all over the place. And people who they do at least survive their injuries and or at least have a limb ripped off and or exposed to this creature's touch, they actually start trying to go after people. There are some who rush in to help. And those people, when they try to help the injured, they are ripped apart and absorbed by these strange new creatures, forming into something new and going to attack others. And Akish just watch this happen. As you do have where the voice behind her, it does alert her to something. And Deku, while he was standing there watching Japan get ravaged by the black goo, he did actually hear the same voice. Both of them turning to see someone just standing there, as they were talking in this language that neither of them they could understand. And this is actually where Deku, he does try to at least repeat and talk to this thing, as we do currently have in the real world. Deku, he's currently laying on the operating table, and he's at least talking. And David, he is still concerned. Deku's eyes show no sign of changing back. And even though his brain scans are abnormal, everything else does appear to be fine. However, there is one problem. Deku, his body is changing. They don't understand it. They noticed it with some things they looked at whenever they did surgery on his jaw. His blood and skin, they seem to be weird. Now, we do at least have where Deku is currently talking. And David, when he does go to stand up and tell him to just remain still and to not speak, he does stare directly at Deku as he's laying down. And Deku, he does get to say something. As you do actually have where Walter, he is staying there on the other side of the room. Walter, he does go to look down towards the table. As you do have the gun, you can call it, sitting down there. It's capable of injecting somebody with high amounts of medication. Or, and the best way to put it right now, painkillers. While it may not be doing very much right now at the current moment, it at least does have an injection piece inside of it. And Walter is going to reach down and pick it up. As David, he does ask Deku if he's feeling fine, and if he's alright. However, Deku he does just go to sit up and look towards David, as he's continuing to speak in this strange language. And David he's trying to at least get a clue as to what the hell is currently happening. As for Ki, she has to sit up as well. You do, however, she has to directly turn and look towards David. She does at least start to speak in the same strange language. However, it does sound different. It sounds less coherent. And that does at least give David a bit more info to run off of. This language isn't yautja, and it's not one that she can speak. It's something that Deku can speak, so theoretically it could be human speech. But no, it doesn't make sense still. It would match up with the alien speech. That means that Deku is speaking in the engineer tongue. Walter, he does go to walk over. As a key when she go to try and stand up, he did go to inject her immediately in the arm. And the moment she'd actually go to do this, you'd actually where Deku, he himself to go to turn directly towards Walter when this did happen. And David, he did go to reach out and go to grab another injector, as he turned right to Deku and did go to inject him right in his back. As Deku, when he did go to fall forwards and slumps down, you did have where a key, she did seem to somewhat react to it. And this was something that Walter he did notice. Deku, he couldn't see the injection. He was so focused on Walter, so how? Even if he was out of it, or, well, even if he was paying attention, he was so just out of it. Now, this is something that both of them, they do need to do more research on. However, they don't really have a lot of time, as we do have where outside of the med bay, a lot of strange things are happening. They are all currently on the way back to the planet Prometheus. However, they aren't the only ones. A lot of people have looked at the information that Walter, or not Walter, David uploaded. They're looking at the mask data in the mission run, as a lot of people, they watched everything. The strange reaction, the strange exposure, and exactly what Commander Aki said to the engineer. He will not harm her beloved. Now, a lot of people, they're confused by this statement. However, you do actually at least have John. John, the moment he saw this information, he did at least go to congratulate himself on it. He knew that there was something there, and that is gross to him. However, he does like that he was proven right, as he does always go to turn to somebody and inform them that he had this information correct for years. However, people called him crazy. However, he doesn't seem so crazy now, does he? The person who they're sitting here drinking with John, they do inform him. He still sounds crazy. However, he can only get this one. A lot of the other stuff he's claimed to have seen around, and at least has been around apparently, still sounds very far-fetched. As John, he does get to bring his hand up and slam it down onto the table, expressing that he was right about Scar, at least hooking up with the yautja chick, and he's going to take that as a victory. All the other stuff may have sounded weird, but it actually happened. As the person who is going to point out one of John's obvious made-up stories. As Johnny does try to defend this claim by saying, oh yeah, this actually happened, this thing was actually here, and there's this strange object over here. And while it all does sound like some sort of strange thing, John, he does at least go to try and sort it all out. The guy at least going to knock back a shot, and expressing to him that it doesn't really even matter, since he stopped paying attention about 30 seconds ago. Now, Johnny does get annoyed. However, you do have when they do get back to Prometheus. David and Walter. These two were working in the medbay for 11 days on these two. However, they didn't wake up. They seemed to just be strange. And we do at least have about a few weeks later. Deku, his eyes finally do start to open. However, when they do, he does go to sit up and he feels strange. As he does go to try and stand on his feet, and he does go to look around. He doesn't know why, but the room feels different. Deku going to bring his hand up, as he does try to remember what happened last. Now, Deku does stare at his hands for a minute, as he does go to flip them over and see that his fingernails, they're black and they grew some. Huh? What the? That's new. Deku turning to look towards the key, since she's laying on the bed that was beside him. As he has to walk over and go to try and shake her awake, asking her if she's alright. And Deku, he does notice something kinda strange. Whenever Aki did go to open her eyes and go to sit up, Deku, whenever Aki stood up, him and her were the same height. And Aki, she did stare at Deku confused, as his eyes, they weren't green anymore. And Deku, he had the same confusion, because Aki's eyes, they weren't, well, the same color either. Her eyes were blue. And Aki, she noticed that Deku's eyes, they were the eyes of a yautja. And that was where things were kind of confusing. As whenever Walter did walk in, you did actually have where he did go to look directly at these two. Him somewhat going to set down the tray, and then go to turn to them. As he does inform both of them that they need to sit down, because a lot of strange things have been happening these last couple days. And he believes that it would be perfect to inform both of them as to all of it right now. As these two do come walking over, you do have where both of them they do start to eat the food that Walter did bring. And as this is happening, you do have where Walter he does go over a few things, asking them their last memory and exactly what they do remember. And Deku he does at least go to try and think, as you do have where he does go to grab a piece of meat and then go to grab another one. Him going to hand a piece to Aki, as you did actually have the moment where him and her they touched hands. The moment this did actually happen, something felt weird. Deku and Aki both going to pull back their hands, as they did go to stare at each other for a second. The piece of meat falling to the ground, as Walter does go to stare at that. As Deku, he asked Aki if she felt that. What is this? Why did you grow? What's wrong with my hands? That is something strange we'd like to explain to you. What? Yes. Listen. I understand that you two may not be very trusting of me. I understand you have many reasons to be exactly the way you are. Your species, Izuku, you're humans. You react negatively to things you do not understand. You lash out in anger. And the way you were reacting was very strange. We've analyzed it and we've looked at it. And, well, there is at least things with you, Misaki. The yautja. You are all strange. And right now, the best way to put it is, you've gotten stranger. Walter, I don't exactly know what's going on, but can I make a guess? It would be rude of me to say no, because I think you may have an understanding of it. Now, Deku is going to bring up his hands, talking about how he's not exactly too sure, but he's pretty sure that whatever they were exposed to, it may have done this to them. You were on the right track, but it's more to that. Scar, what'd you say? What? I thought I heard you talk. I didn't say anything. But you were just thinking about. Wait, I was just thinking you were. I. What? Hmm? What were we talking about again? Now, Deku and Akita do go to stare at each other. As Walter, he is staring at these two, kinda confused. And you do actually have where Aki, she does get at least open her mouth. Her saying something that does kinda confuse him. As whenever Deku he does watch Aki open her mouth, he realizes that his has been closed the whole time. As he has to vocalize, and Aki is just gonna react to that. Now, this does seem to be kinda strange. And Walter, he does at least get to document it, since some of their theories were just proven correct. And right now, he does get to inform the two of them. He believes that something strange happened to both of them, with the engineer. They're not exactly too sure, but a lot of their cells, they are, in a way, changing and adapting, especially because of the current circumstance. Now, David, he does come walking in. As whenever he does, you do have Walter. He does get to somewhat scoot over, and David is going to sit down in a chair, informing both of them that he's going to cut straight to the chase and tell both of them the way they like to get done with business. Whatever happened to them right now is a very, very big problem because both of them they might be psychically interlinked, and detangling them will be a very big hassle because right now he's fairly certain that off of their brain scans, the closer in proximity to each other, the stronger the link. And it is something that both of them, they do sort of stare at David at. And David he does go to inform Deku that that is not the only things that have changed. Him going to hold up a mirror as Deku does go to stare directly at his eyes. Him kinda confused. Uh-huh. What the hell? Yes. And currently you both stand at 6'5". Really? Yes. Your small growth spurt. It is very strange. However, there is the matter of Izuku. He grew fairly larger than you did. While you had some room for growth, he's a full grown man. In fact, he is in his later 20s. Well, you are the same for your species. I don't exactly know if the correct term would be. You two may have. Well, you know. Hmm? Are you saying that our link is more than mental? I don't know. However, that's another thing. We tested the genes on the engineer. We tested the genes on you both. And right now, all of them they show a sort of match. Hmm? Match? Yes. And the best way to put it, Izuku. They are almost all the same. Your twos is similar enough, while the engineers it wasn't nearly as complete. It may be because of cell death, but that's one of our running theories. Wait, so what are you saying? Are you saying that this is more than just some strange experiment? Izuku, I'm saying in a way you are no longer human. The same way that Misaki here is no longer a yautja. Wait, so I'm not myself anymore? Both of you are purely yourselves. However, in a manner of speaking, you are also sort of each other. I believe that would be the best way to put it. Now, I believe that you two also do at least need to do some crowd control. Hmm? What do you mean? The information on Misaki's mask, I uploaded it to the network. The moment Deku does hear that, he is going to jump up. Him smashing into something and just ask David, why the hell would he do that? It was protocol. Besides, if I've known what was on it, I wouldn't have uploaded that information. And what exactly about you? David turning to a key, expressing to her that she herself broke her own character. And this information, it should have been removed to begin with. She should have at least had measures in place for this type of event, since he just put on her mask and looked through the archives. He also did at least find proof of a few things. And right now, he's got a system worked up, or at least worked in place, to try and decipher the language the engineers did have. Since right now, they're not exactly too sure where to go with it. However, that's not their main priority. Their main priority is at least trying to help these two, in a way, return back to what they are, or what they were. Since right now, they're both undergoing weird mutations. Now, Deku and Aki, they do go walking out of the medbay, and a few people, they actually do stand outside, and they are staring at these two. As a lot of people, they do stare directly at Deku, and they do stare directly at Aki. As Deku, he is walking down the hallway and trying to, well, walk in a way. He's not used to his legs being so lengthy, and his arms, they just hang there. It feels weird. Now, Deku, he does get back to his room, and he did at least have a few people who were commenting on his strange body. And a few of them, they did at least go to point out a few other things. Since some of them noticed that the tips of Deku's hair, they do seem to be changing. They're not green, but they're shifting to, what is that, gray? That can't be gray, right? He's not even 40. And he's in good physical shape. And that's just one of the many things that people are pointing out. As for people, they did see Aki, a lot of them, they did notice how she was reacting. She seemed to be sort of dazed or confused. She seemed to be just walking around a lot and looking down at many things. It was just weird to them. Well, some of them, they did try to approach Aki to talk. She didn't really even know what to say to them. It seemed like they were snapping her out of some sort of fog. And you did at least have whenever she did go to retire to her room. As this did happen, you did at least have Deku. He was laying down and trying to think. Everything he remembered, everything he's felt these last couple hours, they just feel fuzzy. They feel strange. He doesn't know how to put it, but it feels like his mind's been flooded. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Have an amazing night. I'll catch you guys in the next part.